Hey everyone, my name is Raju. I'm going to show you how you can set up a dashboard by connecting your Tableau spreadsheet to Power BI. I will start off with the demo of the dashboard, then I'll walk you through the step-by-step process of the setup, and as a bonus, I'm going to show you how you can set this up to view the dashboard via web or mobile. Before I dive into the demo, just a heads up on the limitations. So the Power BI desktop application is only available for Windows OS and not for Mac or Linux. And if you are interested in accessing this dashboard via web or mobile, you would require either a Microsoft 365 work account, or if you are using a personal account like Live or Hotmail, you would require a pro license. Okay, let's dive into the demo. So in the summary page, we have the cash flow, which is segregated into four divisions, which is income, expenses, bills, and savings. The visuals in the header indicate the current month data, but we also have the last 3 months data in this cash flow visual. So the net worth shows the comparison of your assets versus liabilities. And if you have multiple account groups, you can see the balance for each group over here. And if you have various types of investments, you can track the amount invested versus returns for all those types of investments that you have. On the right side, we have the top 5 expense categories. And as we define the budgets for each category, we can also see the overall budget left across all the categories. We also have the notifications. So if you hold Control key and then click on this bell icon, you will be able to see the number of uncategorized transactions and the bills due in a week or even past due as well. Moving on to the next page, which is the expense trend. Here we can see the expenses by groups and the top 5 expense categories and the expenses by week and month. We also have an option to check the stats for the last 3 months. So you can easily toggle between these months and see the data changing. And we can also apply the filters for group, category, tag, and account. So if you click on this drop down menu for any of these groups and select an item, it will automatically filter all the visuals to apply those same filters whichever we apply here. And you can even dig deeper by selecting specific categories, maybe just the streaming and subscriptions. So you can easily filter all these visuals to reflect these. We also have an option to cross highlight, where you can select one visual and it will highlight the portion of the data that is associated with the other visuals. For example, if we select the streaming category, it will automatically highlight the other visuals which are corresponding to the streaming data. So if you hover on this, you'll be able to see the total amount versus the highlighted amount and also the percentage in comparison. So this might be helpful when you're trying to understand better. And the last page we have is query page. Here we just have one visual. This is actually leveraging a Q&A feature in Power BI, which allows us to convert natural language text into visualization. So if you have any ad hoc queries for which there is no visual to display the data, then you can just enter your query in natural language and get the result using this Q&A visual in Power BI. As you can see, this visual is generated by the text, which is savings by calendar month year. And let's say if you want to find the list of transactions for the category subscriptions in the last 30 days or so. So you can just type the same query, the transactions of category subscriptions in the last 30 days, and it will automatically filter the results from the transaction sheet and display you the results. And let's say you just want to get the sum instead of the individual items, then you can just say sum of amount, and then it will automatically display you the sum of all those transactions of category subscriptions. Just note that sometimes you might have to refine your query to match the column names or the table names, whichever are there in the Power BI dataset. So give it a try, and after multiple refinements, I guess you'll get a hang of how to use it. That's an overview of the dashboard. Okay, let's begin with the setup now. So if you open the post in the show and tell category in Tilla community, the first step is to download the Power BI desktop application and install it in our PC. And like I mentioned earlier, this is only available for Windows OS, but not for Mac or Linux. So if you click on this link, it will take you to the Microsoft Power BI support page where you can download the setup file. So if you scroll down a little, you'll be able to see this download link over here, which will take you to the Microsoft App Store where you can download the app. But if you have issues in downloading it via App Store, you can use this advanced download options where it will download the setup file instead. So you can click on this link and download the setup file. Once the setup file is downloaded, you can go ahead and install it. That's all we need with respect to the installation. We can now move on to the setup. So first, you need to open your actual Tiller spreadsheet. For the demo purposes, I'm using a sample sheet, but you can open up your actual spreadsheet. So this sample sheet just has core sheets part of the Tiller Foundation template, like the transactions, categories, and a couple other hidden sheets like this accounts and balance history. But this dashboard relies on the first three core sheets and bill payment tracker template from the Tiller Community Solutions. The bill payment tracker is optional, but I would recommend you to install it from the Tiller Community Solutions add-on. The first thing that we need to update is the transactions sheet. We need to make sure that we have these four columns available in the transaction sheet. You might be having some of these columns already, but if you don't, then you need to add these columns at the right end. In the demo sheet, we don't have any of these columns. So I'm going to select the last four columns and then right click and then click on insert four columns right. Now this will append four columns at the end. So the first column that we need to update is tags. So if you're already using tags, then you don't need to create one more column for that. But if you don't, then just update the header as tags and just leave the rest of the rows as blank, like this. And the next one is type. So we just need to copy the formula from here and paste it in the header over here. So we can just click on the formula bar and then paste that formula and hit enter. So this will automatically pull up the type based on the category from this categories sheet. Similarly, we can update the formula for the group and hide from reports as well. So I'll just copy these and paste it over here. So we are just having all these last three columns filled from the categories sheet, depending on the category of the current transaction, just to make it easier for our reporting purposes. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is to copy the Power BI tab from the sample sheet included in the installation section. So if you click on this, which has that Power BI sheet, which consists of several named ranges and data associated with that. So if you open up this Power BI, so you'll see the first section is for the investment performance across the different groups, the different types of assets that you have. And this shows the account balances with respect to the class and group as well. And we also have the bills due in a week or even past due. So to have the same data for your spreadsheet, so you can just right click on this Power BI and the Power BI tab, and then click copy to and then existing spreadsheet. Here you can select that recent tab and then select the actual Tiller spreadsheet, whichever you have. So I'm going to select this and then insert. Click OK. If you head over to your actual sheet, you should see the new tab which is created with the name as copy of Power BI. So we can just rename that to Power BI itself by removing that copy of. Okay. So now we have the data over here. Next, we need to update the named ranges referenced by the Power BI report. So if you are not familiar with named ranges, these are just tables that can exist in any part of the sheet like this one. So it doesn't necessarily have to start from the first cell of the tab. So we have the named ranges copied over from the sample sheet, but we just need to get rid of the reference to the tab. So if you head over to the data menu and then select named ranges, you'll see the list of named ranges available throughout the spreadsheet. But the last three, these are the ones that are created from this. So as if you just hover on this, it will highlight the data associated with it, the range associated with it. So as you see, it is considering the reference of the current tab name. We just need to get rid of that. So to delete the name range and then recreate it, we'll just copy the name. So we just need the same name, but we are going to delete this and then just copy the name and then delete it. Click on remove on this pop-up. So that will get rid of the range. But if you see, it's already selecting that range for us. So we can just have that selected and then click on add a range. Just replace the name range again and then click done. So as you see, it removed the reference to that name like earlier because we are just creating it right within this spreadsheet, not copying it over from some other existing spreadsheet. So we need to repeat the same for the other ranges as well. So I'm going to click on edit, copy this name and then delete range, click remove, and this is already selected. So I'm just going to click on add a range and then paste the same name again and then click done. So there's one more range which is to the right. So I'm going to click on edit, copy the text, delete, remove, and then add a range and then paste it and then done. So now we have the named ranges. So one thing is regarding the investment performance range. So the first range, this is just some dummy data with different types of assets, whichever I have, but you might be having completely different types of assets, right? So you can update those if you have the data already in your spreadsheet by adding the formulas. But as you see, these are just uh, dummy values that I have manually entered. So if you don't have these values in your Dilla spreadsheet already, you can probably update these manually once in a while, maybe every week or every month, whatever time frame that you are comfortable with. But if you have those already, you can just add the formulas to reference those and get here dynamically. The latest balances range is pulling the data from the accounts sheet automatically. So you don't have to change anything over here. Although you might have to update the accounts tab because you might see the group as ungrouped assets or ungrouped liabilities. So if you haven't done that already, so to update that, you can just click on the hamburger menu on the bottom left and select the accounts tab. That will bring it up from the hidden sheets. So as you see, I have already updated the group for each of these accounts. But let's say if I remove the group over here, And if you check it in here, it will show the group as ungrouped asset based on the account class. It might not make much sense if we just have it as ungrouped asset like this. So I would recommend you to update the group in the accounts tab for all your accounts. And then we have one more range, which is for the bills due. So this gets populated from the bill payment tracker sheet. But in this demo sheet, we don't have that installed. So that's why we are not seeing anything in here. But if we do, then we would be able to see the bills due in a week or the ones past due as well. With this, we have the teller sheet updated with all the data that we need for our Power BI dashboard. So now we can open up our Power BI dashboard and update it to use with our own teller sheet. So for that, we need to download this PBIX file and then open it up. So make sure that you have the Power BI desktop application installed before this step. So I already have this downloaded and open. So let me bring that over here. Okay. So now we have the dashboard open. So we need to update it to use with our actual data. But before that, let me just save it with a different name so that even if we make some mistake in the future, we can always refer back the template file. So I'll hit file and then save as, and then you can select the folder whichever you want to save it in. So you can just get rid of this whole thing and save it. But just for this demo purpose, I'll just save it as -demo because I already have an actual file for me. So hit save. Okay. So now we have the demo file created, or in your case, the actual file created. So now we need to make it to use our actual tiller sheet, not this sample one. So for that, navigate to the Home tab and then select Transform Data. This will open up the Power Query Editor window, which looks something like this. So uh, if you are new to this Power BI, then this is the Power Query Editor. So on the left side, you will be able to see the list of all the queries, which are nothing but tables uh, we have. And on the right side, we have the series of steps whichever are applied. So these are something like macros in Excel or Google Sheets. So we apply a series of steps and then it repeats the same for any changes to the data set as well. And we also have the first 1,000 rows displayed in here from the result of this query. So to update the data source, we can click on the source step for the transactions. So just click on the source over here and then you'll be able to see the formula for that. Basically, this is having the URL to the sample sheet, but you can just update it with our own tailor sheet. So I'm going to head over to the tailor sheet, whichever I have, and just copy the URL by pressing Ctrl C and then paste that in here. Just replace this URL. Just select this URL and then hit backspace and then paste that URL, whatever you have. Just to make sure that you're not giving edit permissions to Power BI. Obviously, Power BI can't edit, but still it's safe to get rid of the edit permissions. So you can just remove this edit part and leave it just till the backspace and hit enter. So the moment you do that, it is asking you to edit the credentials because this is your actual Tiller spreadsheet and the Power BI doesn't have access to that yet unless you authenticate it. So that's why we need to select enter credentials and then you need to click on sign in. This will take you to the browser window where you need to authenticate your Power BI report to access your Google Sheets. Once it loads, you'll be able to see the list of Gmail accounts whichever you have configured. So I'm going to select mine and then grant the access to that. So just hit continue over here. So once you receive this message, you have completed the authentication of Google Sheets to Power BI. So you can just close this window and then come back to your Power BI report. So you can see that it says you are currently signed in. So just hit connect. This will load the data from your actual sheet and then display those over here. It might take a moment for it to load depending on the number of tabs that you have or the amount of data that you have in the Google Sheets. So once that is loaded, you should be able to see the list of all the tabs which are available in your Google Sheets. And if you click on the last tab, then you will be able to see the result formatted with all these steps which are applied over here. So you don't have to worry about all these steps, but you need to change the source for all these queries under this master queries group. So just select the source and then paste the same URL whichever you copied earlier. So I'm going to get rid of this and then copy this whole thing from here and hit enter and just click on the last step to see the data just to confirm everything is fine. For the budget by categories, you might see some errors depending on the structure of your categories sheet. So if you open the categories, you might have some additional columns as well, like tags or any other columns, or maybe the subgroups or any custom columns, whichever you might have. So just make sure that you don't have anything else other than category, group, type, hide from reports, and then the months. So even these two columns, the type and hide from reports, we are considering these for exclusion. So we just need to make sure that we don't have anything else other than the category, group, and then the budgets for the months. So if you have any other columns, then you can click on the remove columns step and then add all those columns. Let's say you have tags column, then you can just type comma and then within double quotes, you can just enter your column name. But in my case, I don't have it. But if you do, then you can just add all those columns with a comma separator over here. So that's one additional step. So I'll continue with updating the source for all these sheets. Okay, so now we have all these queries updated with the source to the actual Google Sheets. Once this is done, select the close and apply button over here. That will automatically apply all those changes into your Power BI dashboard. So once you click on that apply changes, it will reload all the visuals based on the data set that whatever you have updated earlier. So it might take a moment for it to load all those data. At this point, most of the report should be good enough, except for the bills, I guess, where we are seeing the blank value. So to fix that, we need to update the formulas for the measures to match our own custom groups or categories. So it was not able to find any bills with respect to a specific group. So that's why it is showing up as blank. So if you expand the measures table, you will see two folders, budget and common. So the budget folder has the measures whichever are used by this budget left visual, where we see the amount of expenses and then the total budget allocated and also the percentage of the budget left over here. So we also have a common folder which has the measures that are used by the visuals in the header like this. So these are common across all these pages. So that's why these are grouped under this folder. So since we have the issues with the bills, so let's just click on bills. And as you can see, it is trying to filter the records or the transactions with the group as living. So we are considering living as a group under which all the bills are there. But in the demo sheet that I am using, we have a group named as bills, and we have all the bills listed under that. So I'm going to update the formula over here by replacing this living with bills as the group and hit enter. So to see the result, if it actually got updated, just click anywhere else outside this formula bar. So now we can see the bills value showing up depending on the transactions that are applicable for that specific group. But let's say we have so many categories under the group bills, and we might even want to consider a category that is not even part of uh, the bills group. So like this living expenses, let's say if we want to consider this mortgage also as a bill, then we might have to consider all these categories individually instead of the group, because it's not on the group column, it's on the categories column. So for that, we can head over to the measure again, the bills measure again. So instead of group as bills, we'll just update the column category and replace it with the category which all we have, which is a cell phone bill. So I'll just say cell bill. Now this will use just this category cell phone bill to derive the bills for this current month. So it's $0, so it's not going to show up anything. But let's say if we want to consider multiple categories, in that case, you need to add a double pipe symbol, so with a space as well. So the pipe symbol is the one on the backslash key, and then just copy the same thing over. I'll replace this with as that's what we have over there. Now we have the bills showing up based on the transactions from the categories cell phone bill and gas bill. So if you noticed, we added a pipe symbol over here to add multiple categories as filters. But if you want to separate this with a comma, then it would consider it as an AND condition, like these ones, where we are trying to consider the transactions which have the hide from reports value as not hide, and also the transaction type as expense. So it's like an AND condition, but these are OR condition. So if you want to add even more categories, you can separate those with pipe symbols. And for savings, we are already having that value coming up fine because we have the group named as savings in the categories sheet. So I didn't have to do anything for the savings. But if you don't have a group for savings, or if you have a category of savings, then you can repeat the same steps that you did for the bills to the savings as well. So whatever filters that you have applied for bills and savings, those need to be excluded in the expenses. So if you have different groups or or categories, then you would need to copy the filters from the both the bills and the savings measures. So in this particular case, we have it different for the just the bills. So I will copy this and paste it in the expenses. So we don't have the group as living. So I'll just remove this part of it and replace with this. But if you see, this has an equal sign, which is to consider just the cell phone bills and gas bills. But for expenses, we need to exclude these. So that's why we need to make this as not equals, which is less than and greater than symbols. So I'll just replace the equal symbol with not equals. And since we are applying a negation of it, basically the opposite of it, that's why we need to change this from or condition to and condition by adding a comma over here. So this will automatically exclude the cell phone bills and the gas bills and also the savings. So now we have those categories or groups excluded from this top 5 expense categories. We actually have a couple other expense related measures like this expenses delinked. Let me expand this. Like the expenses delinked and the expenses current month and also the budget allocated. So we need to copy this last part from this expenses measure and then paste it in this as well. So I'll just replace this last part from the one that I copied from the expenses. Hit enter to save. And I'll also repeat that for the expenses current month. So I'll just select this part and then paste, hit enter. And there's budget allocated as well, where we need to exclude those. But if you see, the table name is a little different over here, which is the budget by categories, but not the transactions. So I'll just paste that anyway and then modify that a little later. So instead of transactions, we need to copy this budget by categories and then paste that in here. Replace all these transactions to budget by categories. Now this will automatically exclude those categories or groups, whatever we have considered for bills and savings. We also need to update the filters on the visuals. So if you click on the top 5 expense categories visual and then expand the filters, you will see there are some filters applied to exclude the transactions of this transaction group as not livings or savings. So we are actually excluding uh, the living and savings group. But since we have the bills categorized based on the cell phone bill and the gas bill categories, but not the group as a whole, so we need to add the filters for that and remove these. So since I have the filter for savings, I'll just leave that as it is, but I will just select the living so that we don't have anything filtered on the livings. We are just excluding the ones for savings, and along with that, we need to add filters for. I'll just select all and then exclude the cell phone bill and the gas bill, as we are not considering these as expenses. Instead, we are considering these as bills. So these will no longer show up in the expense top 5 expense categories, even though the amount is higher. We need to repeat the same for the expense trend page as well. So if you just click on the expense and trend page and then apply the same filters over here. So we have the livings removed over here. We just have group is not savings, and we also need to exclude the categories, but we don't have the categories filter over here. So to do that, expand this transactions, and then you will find the category field over here. So just drag that over here. So once you have the category field, select all the records and then deselect the ones that we don't want to see in these visuals, like the cell phone bill and the gas bill in my case. So we have applied the filters for the bills and also for the savings group. So those wouldn't show up here. So we are done with the filters. There's just one last piece. If your local currency is not US dollar, then you can update your own local currency for all the amount fields whichever we have in the report. So if you select the income measure or any other measure whichever you have, and then select the drop down next to the dollar sign, you will be able to see the list of all the available currencies within Power BI. So you can select your own local currency. In my case, it's Telugu India. So I'll select that. And also make sure that the number of decimal places over here, this is showing up as 0 and not auto. So it's already 0, so I'm not changing that. So if you click anywhere else, then you'll be able to see the income showing up with the value with my local currency. So you need to repeat the same for all the amount fields, whatever we have that are listed in the documentation as well. So there are a couple of amount related fields. So you need to repeat the same steps of updating the local currency and also the decimal places for all these amount fields. So that's all we have with respect to the setup. If you need to refresh the data in your dashboard, when there is a change in the data in your tiller sheet, then you can just hit this refresh button in the home tab. Then it will automatically refresh the data from your tiller spreadsheet and load it into Power BI to generate these visuals again. Now, to access this dashboard on the fly via web or mobile, you need to publish this report into the Power BI service. So the Power BI service is a web-based application where we don't have to use it in our local PC. So to publish the report, we need to click on this publish icon in this home tab. Just save your changes. You will then see a pop-up requesting you to choose the workspace where you want this report to be published. So you can just select my workspace and then hit select. So it will try to upload the data, whatever you have, and also the report corresponding to this dashboard. So it will also prompt you with the link to open this report. So if you click on this link, you might be asked to log in using your Microsoft account. So you should probably log in with your Microsoft 365 work account or your personal account, which has the Power BI Pro license. Once you're in, you should be able to see the dashboard on the web as well. As you can see, we are able to see the dashboard now on the web. So we also have an option to schedule the auto refresh of the data set within Power BI service so that we don't have to refresh the data manually every single day or whenever we want to refresh this. So to do that, click on My Workspace, and then you will probably see two different entries for the same name for your actual dashboard, where you see one for the report and the other for the data set. So the data set is the one where we have all the data loaded from the data sources like the tiller sheet into Power BI. So this is the one which we need to refresh every day or even multiple times a day if we need. And once you have the data set updated, then it will automatically load it into the report. So if you click on this refresh icon over here, the schedule refresh icon over here, then you will be able to see the settings of the data set. So if you scroll a little down, you will be able to see the data source credentials. Since this is not directly within the Microsoft account, you would have to authenticate Power BI to access the Google Sheets uh, for the from the Power BI service. So you would have to hit edit credentials and then grant the access for Google Sheets to Power BI. Once you are done with that, you can expand the refresh tab, and then once you update the credentials, only then you will be able to see this refresh option. So you have an option to schedule the refresh to run daily or weekly or whatever frequency that you need, or even multiple times a day. So once you enable the data refresh schedule, then it will run it periodically. And for accessing this dashboard via mobile, you can download the Power BI app on your mobile. So we have both Android app and the iOS app as well. So you can download it from the Play Store and then uh, connect to your dashboard directly from your mobile. So you'll probably see the same layout that you see over here in the Power BI desktop. So the layout looks the same if you do it like this. But if you want to customize this even further and have a different mobile layout with just limited number of visuals, or maybe having a specific visual to be highlighted more or something like that, then you can even customize your own mobile layout of your dashboard. So to do that, you can open up the Power BI desktop application and then head over to the View tab and then select Mobile Layout. So this will give you a plain background for the mobile with the mobile layout, but you'll also have all the visuals whichever you have for your desktop view. So you can just either drag all these and then paste these in the same way. For example, the top 5 expense categories. So I'm just dragging that over here, but we can expand this uh, to see it in a bigger font, or maybe we can even customize the fonts and everything. Maybe we want to see the income and all those, the bills, all the values which we were seeing earlier. So you can just drag all those things and just adjust the sizes accordingly, uh, whatever is comfortable for you. So you can tweak this layout to match your own needs based on all the visuals whichever you have in the desktop view. But you can't have anything outside uh, those visuals. So whatever you need everything created in the desktop view first, and only then you can use those in the mobile layout. That's all I have with respect to the demo of this dashboard. Feel free to try it out and let me know if you have any issues in setting this up. You can post a reply in the show and tell post for this topic, and I'll respond to you as soon as I can. Hope you find this useful.